Hello, Dave and Tim here at the Single Malt Review, and it's time for another bourbon. In fact, the last bourbon in our Drinks by the Dram bourbon tasting set.
The final bourbon ever.
And it's a different one. It is something a bit off the beaten track, a bit unusual for as far as our experience goes.
Yeah, it is. Starting with where it's made. This is, oh hello Isla, just in time. Where have you been today? Oof, 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 oof. This is from Sonoma. This is a Californian bourbon. Which is fine. It's perfectly within the rules of bourbon. This is from Sonoma Distilling Company. All goodness, Isla. That's with dangerous behaviour now. Go on.
So Sonoma Distilling Company have been producing whiskey out of Cali since 2010 or thereabouts, including bourbon. It's obviously not a Kentucky straight bourbon or anything. The controls on those labels are quite tight, but it is. I was a bit surprised to learn that it can be called bourbon when it's not from Kentucky, but apparently that's the case. And here it is, 46% ABV, and just simply Sonoma Distilling Company bourbon whiskey.
Pretty dark old bourbon.
Yeah, they produce a variety of other spirits and expressions as well, but this is the standard issue of bourbon. Yeah, good colour. It'll be interesting to compare it, the maturation in a fairly coastal environment versus the much more inland we're used to from Kentucky bourbon.
Something's different here.
Yeah.
We are not in Kansas or indeed
Oh,
Kentucky
wow.
anymore. Something's gone very interesting here. They've used some funky grains in here.
Yeah, the mash bill for this is probably quite curious. That's like, it reminds me of McDonald's pancake syrup at first, which is not a great recollection, but it's still sweet.
Yeah. There is maple syrup, but not the usual maple syrup.
No.
Yeah, the artificial maple syrup.
Yeah.
And black coffee.
Coffee
beans.
Yeah, coffee's coming through and a bit of chocolate. In fact, the tasting notes.
A lot of coffee and chocolate. This is very abnormal.
Yeah.
This is non-standard for sure.
The nosing notes from Drinks by the Dram. Freshly baked cornbread, vanilla, and a sharp hint of sandalwood.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
there's a bit of red tortilla there.
It's mega vanilla.
Yeah, it is bonkers sweet.
When the concentration of vanilla, it's the experience I suppose many children have at a young age. When you taste vanilla essence straight, it does not taste like it smells.
No.
But even when the concentration gets that high in the smell, there's a bitter edge to it, and that's kind of locking together with the coffee and the aroma.
Interesting.
And it's really, really deepening and starkening the vanilla, and it's pretty weird. This is one of the weirdest bourbons I've nosed in some time. This is reminding me, and here's a callback to something you may or may not have seen. If I were closer to home, the Archie Rose Australian single malt whiskey, they used a bunch of weirdo grains in their malt, including chocolate malt and other sorts of stuff.
Really dark roasted brewing malts.
And then you've got this bizarre, incredibly real coffee and chocolate coming through on the spirit level.
And
that's reminding me of this.
Yeah.
This is weird in the same way. All right, well, we're going to have to go further in.
Oh, immediately, that's espresso, that's really strong dark chocolate. Yeah. Oh, that's rich and tasty.
There's so many. This is a really, really spirit-driven bourbon. Most bourbons are, by the nature of the fresh oak that gets used every time by law, the bourbons are usually incredibly oak-driven. That vanilla, that maple syrup, that sort of oak sweetness, the spices. This is not. This is very, very spirit-driven.
This is espresso and cocoa and licorice root through and through. This is strong and spicy.
This is weird, man.
Yeah.
This is some Berkeley ass bourbon. This is I don't know, man.
Oh, the tasty notes here speak of smoky roasted vanilla, which is a new one to me.
Sure.
Toffee popcorn, coffee, and rich bitter dark chocolate.
Yeah.
Those last two especially in abundance.
Sure.
And a finish which is short and dry with a peppery spice that lingers slightly.
Yeah, I guess. This is a spooky bourbon. This is a very, very weird bourbon.
That was really challenging the definition of bourbon in my head.
If I was a bourbon purist, and I'm sure they're out there, I'd be
flipping tables,
furious right now. This is like a, I don't know. This is I can't even quite quantify this. This is a real weirdo bourbon.
Yeah. Oh, I like things that confront a paradigm slightly and
Yeah.
change things up, and I like what I'm tasting here, especially being a bit of a coffee and chocolate fiend, especially liking those characters.
I like it too. Does it taste a little conspicuously young to you? There's a little bit
Hard to say. I'd expect...
maybe it's just because the spirit it is so spirit driven. The spirit also seems a little bit exposed. Like
maybe I'm not getting the kind of fiery spiritus prickle I would from a younger whiskey, but maybe it's doing the thing that, say, Australian and Indian whiskey do, where it ages very quickly because of the very tropical climate. I think of California, obviously I've never been there, but I think of being coastal, so continuously warm.
It gets warm, all right.
But again, I know California is a big place and they have snowy mountains.
Well, they don't have the massive, much like we don't have the massive seasonal shift of more mainland.
Where is Sonoma County anyway?
Are they Northern California? I could be entirely wrong here. I think they are Northern California because they're close up in wine country there. So
right.
They are on the warmer end, I think. But
I'd love to know more about the mash bill for this. Just maybe I do use a toastier malt, perhaps.
I'm really not sure. They are. I mean, they're under less duress from the rules because they're not making straight Kentucky bourbon.
Yeah.
So they've got a bit more freedoms there, and I would need to double check exactly what difference that makes in terms of how unreal you're allowed to get, how ill you are allowed to get with your grain selection. But yeah, there is more than one thing going bizarro on this bourbon.
There's doing strange, new and intriguing things, and I like that. It's not just weird for weirdness' sake. It's taking those core ingredients and just putting a bit of a twist on them, just making them into something new, and that's really beguiling. I'm slightly bamboozled, but I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I'm completely bamboozled. I don't know if I'm falling for it, but I'm definitely bamboozled. I think my last word, TM, on this one, chapter marker, hopefully, if I remember. This is, from start to finish, an abnormal bourbon. It is an outlier. It is a rule breaker. It is completely different to what one would expect from a typical Kentucky straight bourbon. I'm not saying it could not be more different. Thank you, phone. That was very essential. But boy, you'd have to go a lot further out of your way to find one that was more of a weirdo number than this. And I think, I'm meeting, because I feel you're very positive on this one. This one is, because I like traditional bourbon, I really do quite like it. This one is maybe getting a little bit too weird for me. This is maybe too fringe. It's crossed the line somewhere. It's like when someone, you know how like people with tattoos are okay, but then you get those like the tattoo people, and it's like, I'm the tattoo guy, and now they're on my face, and it's like, I don't know. That was a weird way of going around it. This bourbon's too weird for me, man. Too weird for me. It's an 83. What do you think?
Well, I like bourbon. I like traditional bourbon. I also like weird, inventive things. This does both. In fact, if this was given to me sight unseen, I would not pick it as bourbon up front, but knowing what it is, I can see how that is the case and how it does new and wild things with bourbon. Which is a roundabout way of saying it is 89 points for me. It is solid, it's enjoyable, it's surprising and quirky. All things I enjoy. It's not just novelty for novelty's sake, it's novelty done well to deliver a very unique whiskey which hits a lot of my flavour sweet spots. Coffee, chocolate. I could live on that if I would.
That makes it one of our more divergent scores for bourbon, especially. So this one, that always indicates that this one will treat different people differently. So go in cautious. But if you've got a bold palate and you want to try something that really does, it goes to a completely different club to the other bourbons. This is your one for sure. There is new stuff to find here. So anyway, spooky stuff here at the Single Malt Review. Slandra, thanks for tuning in. We will be right back.